Hello, hi, welcome to the Stellarium training series. My name is Blake Carroll, and this video is going to show how you can download and install the Stellarium software. Specifically, we're going to look at kind of all the steps that are required. We'll find the software, the official source of the software. We'll download the correct version of it. We'll then go through the installation process and the various questions that are proposed, including ones from your operating system. And then I'll show how to do a test of the software just to make sure it's working okay. Again, this Stellarium series is on the full computer software. That is the software that's been developed for the Windows platform, the Macintosh computers, and Linux computers or workstations. I'm not talking about the web application. Of course, you don't really need to install any software there. And I'm not talking about the mobile apps. That's all quite different. If there is a lot of interest in those, I can always do some specific videos on those. But I'm going to demonstrate the process for the Windows platform. Specifically, I have the 64-bit version of Windows 10 on this computer, and the process should be very similar if you're using the Mac OS or the Linux operating system, and hopefully you've installed the odd program to your computer so you know the general steps or basic steps for that. But I'll do a pretty deep dive into the Windows platform, and this should give you the overarching approach. This is meant to be a demonstration. It's not a hands-on session, but if you're actually going through the process of installing Stellarium on your computer, you can pause my video after a particular step, do those actions on your computer, and then resume the video. But I'm going to do as quickly as possible a fairly deep run through of all the steps that are required. So are you ready? Let's go.
All right, first thing that we need to do is get into a browser. So I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go to my browser. I'm in Chrome, but it shouldn't matter really which browser you use at this stage, so use your preferred one. The website that we want to go to is stellarium.org. So type in that address, stellarium.org, and the Stellarium homepage will show up. Now, for me, it takes a little while to download the software, so I'm just going to start it now, and then we can talk about other stuff. I'm going to click on the Windows 64-bit, and I'll explain why in a moment, why I'm doing that. And I can see the software is starting to download, so that's good. Okay, so we're at the website. Clearly, you can download versions for your operating system, and you can see there's a couple of choices in the case of Linux and Windows, so you want to know what's the right one to use. You'll see a couple of references here for Stellarium Web. I'm not talking about that. In fact, we don't need to install any software for that. That's a tool that you could go look at and explore, but my training series courses and webinars and this video is all about the full software, the fully powered software, which is free, and that we put onto full or regular computers like PC, Microsoft Windows computers, Apple Macintosh, desktop or MacBook computers, and then Linux computers or workstations. So we're looking at the full software. I'm also not talking about, in any of this training, the mobile platform. There's products for smartphones and for tablets. Those I've seen fees associated with them, so they are not free in some cases, and in general they're scaled down versions of the full Stellarium software. If there's interest, I could do specific videos on those, but this training, the focus is on the full software. You can see this web page has lots of information, including some screen snapshots, but one of the big sections here to take a look at is the features. It talks about all the capabilities in the tool. I won't get into them in any detail, but I just want to say that one of the things that I really like about Stellarium is its realism. The way it presents the sky is unlike other tools that I've used. The appearance of the sky, including sort of atmospheric effects at sunset and sunrise. You see sort of very realistic colors, and the appearance of the stars in a night sky with maybe a planet or two and the moon is eerily realistic. Now, I have adjusted some settings in my Stellarium to alter the appearance of some things, but to me it's almost like I'm standing outside in my backyard or out in the country or something like that. And overall, the tool is fairly accurate as well. So that's documented in much more detail in the features, and I also have a webinar, 30-minute webinar on these features, and I demonstrate them and show them. So check that out if you're interested. You can see in the news section that there have been recent releases for the software, and that's a good thing. It shows that there's active development happening. There's a team of developers around the world that are working on this software, and periodically you'll see a new release, and you could read the detailed release notes to see what's new and what's been changed and what's been fixed. You can see our current version is 0.20.3, so that's good. Hey, those zeros in front are noteworthy. Please note that the Stellarium software is in beta. When software is being developed and there's a team of people that are recruited to test the software, those are beta testers, and they use the tool expecting and knowing that there are bugs and problems with it. And then they communicate with the developers and the software is fixed up. And when a piece of software is officially launched, it's typical that the version numbering starts with 1 or 2, 1.0 and 2.0. Those are official releases of software or final versions of software. So keep in mind that we're using beta software and there might be crashes or failures, and that could cause some problems. So just, I want you to go in eyes open, be ready for that. You can see there's collaborative stuff, but also lots of references to help information. So there's a wiki, there's a forum where you can communicate with other users and the developers, and there's up at the top there, I don't know if you note it, but there's a user guide, and it looked like it's for the current version, so that's good news. Up-to-date documentation for the user working with the software. So these are some of your help resources. You can see stuff about Git and IRC and so on. This is about the developer community, and there's Fabian Chéreau, who kind of started this and is monitoring the whole project. Now, to the matter at hand, when you want to download this software, what you want to do is look at the minimum system requirements to make sure that your computer is powerful enough. I'm on Windows 10. I have a 64-bit operating system. I've got a decent amount of space on the hard disk, and there's lots of memory in this computer, so I can easily meet those requirements, and in fact I probably have all the sort of recommended requirements. But do observe that for your operating system, sort of the versions when they're stated. The most important thing for Stellarium to work right is the graphics support, and you'll see there's a reference here to OpenGL. So your video card or your video capabilities in your computer need to support OpenGL. That's sort of a technical thing, and you might have to do a bit of research or digging to find out if your computer truly supported that. But in general, I think it's safe to say that most modern computers will support that. But if you do run into strange problems in terms of the appearance of the screen, things aren't rendered properly, it's maybe super slow, can't read the font, that might mean that there's problems with the OpenGL support. You might need a new driver. or updated video components for your computer. The other things are pretty easily met. I'll draw attention to the space on disk. It says 250 megabytes. We'll see in a moment that that's not strictly true. So you want to have lots of space, particularly if you're going to load in more catalogs. You can see the upper limit is 1.5 gigabytes. So make sure your computer's got a good amount of free space, and the Stellarium should work fine. Now, one thing that's not real clear in all of this is how do you know if you're on the Windows platform if you're using 32-bit or 64-bit operating system? So let me show you that. How can you figure that out? There's a couple of ways to do this, but I think a common method for most version of Windows lately is to do the following. You want to go into File Explorer or Windows Explorer. Now I have on my screen the little yellow folder icon in my taskbar. You could click on your Start menu. You might have your Windows Explorer or File Explorer as a tile. This is not to be confused with Internet Explorer, by the way. There's also quick references here in my Windows 10 Start menu. There's some icons on the left above the power icon. There's Documents and Pictures. Either one of those will work, doesn't really matter. So I'm going to choose one of these, and I'm trying to get into the File Explorer or the Windows Explorer. Again, not Internet Explorer. And you can see I'm looking at my files and my drives and folders in my computer. There's my quick access stuff up at the top. So great. That's all sort of good information to see. Look for the This PC reference in there. In that listing, you might have to scroll up and down if you don't initially see that. Look for This PC or My Computer. Right click on that to bring up the shortcut menu, various choices here, but we're interested in the properties of the computer. So choose the properties command. There are other ways to get to this. You can find it through your control panel display and so on. Again, a few methods for doing that. So here we are. I'm in the system screen, and lots of details, some of it technical, the processor and the number of cores and how fast it is and the total amount of memory. Again, those should all be sort of fine. Lots of other information, name of the computer and the network, blah blah blah. But here at system type, this is the interesting information. This is what we want to know about our computer. So there's the processor. This is what is in the hardware of the computer, what is going on sort of at the circuitry level, and I have a 64-bit processor for the computer, and that allowed me to install a 64-bit operating system. I could have put a 32-bit operating system on here, but that wouldn't fully exploit the power of the computer. So I've got a 64-bit operating system. That's the important piece of information. Now you know that you can download the Stellarium 64-bit on a computer like this. If you see that you have a 32-bit operating system, then you need to download the 32-bit version of Stellarium. So again, hopefully that makes sense. Now you've got lots of good information. You know about how to determine the system requirements for the software, and they might change over time. And you know how to determine your bitness for your Windows, so you can download the appropriate version. And you've seen along the way that we can learn about the features, the updates that have happened for the software, and where we can go to get some additional help or more information. In the meantime, the software is downloaded, so we're going to go to our next step now. We're going to take a look at how we find the downloaded program. That might be not trivial, but we'll find that, and then we'll begin the installation process. I see that the download process has completed. I'm using Chrome again, and there's a download bar in Chrome, and I see recently downloaded files there. There's the Stellarium, there's the version, no more activity, no warning message or failure message, so that's a good sign. And in fact, Chrome makes it very easy for me to begin the setup or the installation process right now. I could, in theory, I could just click on that icon and begin the process. But I want to walk you through the steps in case that's not an option for you. Maybe you closed the download bar at some point. Maybe you're using a different browser and it doesn't show it this way. So what do you do? We need to get into the file management tool again. In Windows, it's going to be the Windows Explorer or the File Explorer. On the Mac, you're going to go into the Finder. So use your appropriate file manager tool. Again, in my case, I can use the yellow folder icon or the documents icon in the start menu. I'll use the yellow folder this time. So here's my disk and my drives again. Now, in theory, for most people, this should be trivial. It should be easy. There should be a downloads folder. I see it here in my quick access. I see it's also listed under this PC. And when I click in there, I see, oh, there's Stellarium files that have been recently downloaded. Actually, you can see a bunch on my computer. Now, if you looked in your downloads folder, assuming you have one, and you don't see what you're looking for, you don't see the Stellarium file there, maybe look in your desktop or look in the documents folder, or maybe you have a different drive that you download files to. So this is a little bit of your mileage may vary. I don't know, I really don't have any idea where the Stellarium file downloaded specifically on your computer. But for most people, we look in the downloads folder, whew, there it is, and we're good to go. The program is an obvious one. There's the setup program. It's got a constellation in it, the moon, a landscape, and some sky glow, and so on. Again, you can see on my computer, I've downloaded over time some older versions. There's the 0.20.1, and then the superseding version, the .2 version, and here I've got the most recent version, which I actually downloaded a couple of times. You can see parenthetically they're marked with numbers, so that's a bit messy. I got to do some cleanup here and delete some old files. But there's the setup or executable program that I'm going to use to install the software now. So hopefully you're able to track down where your downloaded file went on your computer. And if all else fails, you should be able to do some sort of searching process and look for the word Stellarium and track it down by that means, if it's not listed here. Our next step is to start the installer process now, or to run the setup program. What happens over the next few steps very much depends on your operating system, Windows versus Mac versus Linux. In general, you're going to have to provide some sort of permission. You may have to log in with an administrator or super user account to allow changes to the drive or the disk of the computer. That's to protect against viruses and things like that. If you're at all concerned, actually, now is a good time to run a virus checker on downloaded files to make sure that they're clean, there's no Trojan or virus content in those files. So I'm going to begin the process now for Windows of installing the software, running the setup program, and it's pretty easy, all things considered. I just double click on the setup program and it's going to start running. But we're going to see the user access control pop up. There's a slight delay here, but then I see in Windows the user access control, or UAC, coming up. On the Macintosh, on Linux, you'll probably see a permission screen. You may have to log in with a super user or an administrator account to make changes to the computer. These are normal things happening in modern operating systems to protect us from improper software being installed on a computer. So this check that I'm seeing here in Windows is kind of a normal one. A lot of times when we're installing software, there's things that give us pause here, but I'm seeing a lot of things that are sort of good or comforting. The program name, Stellarium, is noted here. I see the 0.20.3, that's the version that I wanted. I had specifically downloaded the 64-bit version of the Stellarium program, so I see that's here. So these are all sort of good signs, nothing inappropriate there. GitHub, what's that? That's a bit unusual, but the GitHub website is a community of developers and programmers around the world working on various projects. This is a resource that they can use to collaborate and work together on projects with great ease. And we're seeing the Stellarium software downloaded from the GitHub website from the Stellarium project. So again, these are all good signs. Everything looks legit at this stage. A lot of software, when you install it, will show unknown publisher, but the Stellarium team has done sort of good work here. They've established a third-party resource that validates or authenticates their software. So again, lots of good signs here. You can feel quite comfortable that you can proceed at this stage. Again, if you're at all nervous, uncomfortable about installing software on your computer, if you've had trouble with viruses or Trojans before, by all means run a virus check. Stop this process now, run a virus check, do a scan of your computer to give yourself the assurance that everything is okay. But I'm seeing good stuff here, normal sort of things, and I'm going to proceed now. I'm going to allow Windows to let this program run, and then that will initiate the install process. So I'm going to click on the yes button here to tell it to go ahead and install the software on my computer. So I'm going to click yes, and here we go. Okay, now I'm at the first of many prompts that we're going to see in the installer or the setup program. First thing that it wants to know is the language to be used. So choose your preferred language for the software interface. You can see lots of languages are supported, and that speaks to that Stellarium is built by a developer community from around the world. And also we know that Stellarium recognizes many cultures in terms of star names and constellations and star artwork and things like that. So it speaks to the diversity of the program. I'm going to proceed with English, so I'm hitting the OK button. Now we have our license agreement. This is a general public license. So this is the normal sort of legalese. Who reads these? This is all the normal legalese that comes with software, and the broad strokes are you're not going to sue the Stellarium developers if you lose some data on your computer, and you're not to take this software and repackage it and present it as your own and sell it and things like that. So you're acknowledging these sorts of things in the agreement. I've chosen I accept, and I'm hitting the next button. Now this question is where you want to install the software, and I'm going to accept the defaults here. I'm not going to change it, but if you did want to put your program on a specific drive, if you have more than one drive in your computer, or you want to use a very specific folder, or you want to install a new version instead of replacing an old one, you could use a different folder or directory name here. You could type into that location. That's always a little bit risky. It's better to use the browse button. At the bottom, you can see the program is saying it wants at least 400 megabytes of space. And you may recall when we were looking at the web page, it said 250. So that might come as a little bit of a surprise here, but I did caution you that if you want to use extra catalogs, you're going to want lots of space on your computer. So hopefully you've got enough. So again, I'm not changing anything here. I'm proceeding. I'm hitting the next button. Now this question might appear to be asking if you want something in the start menu folder, but it's not asking that. It's asking how you want to word it or how you want to place the item in the start menu. This is going to put something in the start menu, which is good. We need a way to start the Stellarium program. I'm not going to change the wording here. I'm not going to change the location. I'm just going to hit the next button again. Now this we do have some say in. The program is asking if you want a shortcut on the desktop. This is optional. You don't need to do it. You might want to think about this if you do have multiple users using this same computer. Maybe this is a computer your whole family uses, and maybe some of the people using the computer don't care to see the Stellarium icon on their desktop. So think twice about that. Do you want to junk up your desktop or not? Do you want to affect other people? Again, I'm not changing anything here. I'm going to let it put the desktop icon, and I only have one user on this computer, so it's moot. So I'm hitting next. This is our review screen. You just double check all your settings. Are you happy with what you see? If anything went wrong, you would hit the back button, make the appropriate changes, return here, final check. And now I'm going to do the install process. So I'm going to click the install button, and it's going to start working on it. If you watch this display very closely, you'll see various things being installed. There's the guide, there's the landscapes, the scenery, the ground, and so on. There's Nebula being loaded. These are all the images for the Messiers and some NGC objects like galaxies and so on. Scripts are being loaded. There's the sky cultures, all the different regions. There was Arabic, Chinese, Dakota, Mayan, Western culture, of course. Some textures for the planets are being loaded, various language files, and so on. And near the end, we'll see it installs the start menu and the desktop icon items. And we're all done. So obviously I've shown you an ideal scenario where the software is installed without any problems. I hope that you won't experience any problems when you're loading the application, but obviously things could go wrong at this stage. And if they do, I'll talk about in a bit where you can go to get some more information. And if all else fails, you can reach out to me, and I'll try to help you and answer your questions. You can see you can immediately start the Stellarium program, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to close off the setup process, and that will complete the installation. So I'm clicking on the finish button. All done. To just see that things worked okay, I'm going to have a look at my screen. Oh, there's my Stellarium icon on the desktop, so that's a good sign. And if I look in my start menu and head down to the S section, I'll see there it is. There's the Stellarium. It's actually a folder with subfolder items in it, but clearly the software has been installed on my computer. There is not an icon in the start menu as a tile. There's not a quick reference icon in the taskbar on the Mac computer. And on Linux, we don't get things in the dock or the launcher right away, if I remember correctly. So those are customizations that you might make to make it even easier to provide alternate methods for starting the software. But I can tell that it's been installed here, so that's a pretty good sign. That's it really in terms of downloading and installing the software, but I do recommend you do a couple of quick checks to make sure the software is working okay. So let's do that now. In Windows, when you install the software, in particular, if you do not add the desktop icon, you're going to have to use the start menu to launch the program. So let's have a closer look at what's in the start menu for Stellarium. I've moved into the S section. There's Stellarium. It's actually a folder or a subfolder. And when I open it up, there's a ton of things in here, and that might be very intimidating. You're going, whoa, what happened? What's going on? Did I do something wrong? Which of these do I use? It's a bit confusing, but the quick sort of take from all of this is that you should use the first Stellarium entry, the one that is without any parenthetic text. That's the normal main way of starting the Stellarium program. All these other things, really think of them as being used for special purposes. This angle and MESA mode ones are for special cases. There, you can see there's something here for testing the open graphics language diagnostics on the computer if there's some sort of video problem. So there are good entries here that are used for special things, but for normal day-to-day use, just use that first Stellarium entry. I'm gonna start Stellarium from the start menu. I'm gonna use the first entry again. If you have it, you could start Stellarium from the desktop icon. The splash screen is going to appear. I see I've got the version 20.3. I see various components are loading, so that's good. Now Stellarium is going to open up full screen, which is fine for a lot of people, and it gives this very immersive experience. There might be slight delay as you first launch the program. That's because on startup, Stellarium performs some automatic updates. It's getting the latest exoplanet data, it's getting the latest artificial satellite data, which includes the correct positioning of the International Space Station. And if you have some other plugins active, it might take time to update those appropriate data sets as well. If you look at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you may see some progress bars. And for me, it's kind of a rule of thumb to be patient and don't expect any sort of response from the program for a few seconds. I think I have to wait about 10 or 15 seconds before I can kind of do anything in the tool. Now again, the program automatically starts up in full screen mode, and that's a problem for me. I'm running on a laptop with integrated video, and I don't see the mouse pointer anywhere in the screen. So I'm trying to wiggle my mouse around right now, and I can't see it, and that means I can't point to stars or celestial objects. I can't pan. Well, I can pan, that works, but I can't sort of see easily what I'm doing. It's very difficult to work with the toolbars, either the bottom or the side toolbars. So what I need to do to sort of get things working on my computer, if you experience this, the trick is to just get out of full screen mode. Now there's a button in the bottom toolbar to do that, except it's nearly impossible to click on that button. But if you know the assigned keyboard shortcut for Stellarium, you can use that. And the keyboard shortcut is F11. On a laptop, you may have to use your function key, fun F11, to get that to work. So I'm going to hit F11 now, and I'm out of full screen mode, and now I can do what I want to do. I can sort of size this window the way that I want. But most importantly, I can see my mouse pointer, and that's good. I can react with the menus and see what I'm doing. Yay! So that's kind of a strange little gotcha. I don't know if that'll affect a lot of people, but it might impact some Windows users. I know of no issues on the no issues on the Macintosh or the Linux platforms. Now I can see my mouse pointer. Phew! And now I can click on stars. I can click on any object in the sky. There's a bright star. I'm looking for a planet. There's Mars. I can click on Mars. So it's working good. And I can pan. I can move around and pan by clicking and dragging. There's the moon. There's Orion, and so on. So that's good. I'm able to operate the program now the way I expect. So again, that's a bit of a strange issue. It may not affect many people. It's probably something to do with my video graphics board, or maybe the software is not up to date. I should look into that. But again, the spirit here of what we're trying to do is just see that the software works. And if you don't have the mouse pointer visible, you need to, on Windows, you need to hit your F11 key in short order to get out of full screen mode. Now I do want Stellarium to fill most of the screen, so I'm going to hit my normal maximize control. We've got minimize, maximize, etc. Here, normal Windows functions. I'm going to maximize the screen. So I've got my title bar that's a little distracting, and my Windows taskbar. It's truly not in full screen mode, but at maximum size, it's working pretty good. It's not my intention at this stage to teach how to use the tool, but basic things that we can do just to check are to click on an object. We should see the description and details of that object pop up. You should be able to click and drag with the mouse to pan. If you right click, you should be able to deselect an object, so all that descriptive text goes away. You should be able to operate buttons in the bottom toolbar. Let's do the nebulas button. So that's made all these little sort of special patterns show up with descriptions, so we can turn on and off the nebulas, so that's good. And if you wanted to set the date and time to something specific, or use some of the other menu controls in the left menu, move your mouse pointer over to the left menu, it will appear. When you move away from it, it disappears. When it appears, you can click on the appropriate button. I'll go into the date and time, and now I could advance maybe a couple of days into the future. Clearly that's all working well. So that's really all I wanted to do at this stage. I just wanted to get the program installed, up and running, and I wanted to do some tests in it. This tells us that our mouse is working, the graphical interface is working, so these are all good signs. And along the way we saw that there might be a gotcha for some users on the Windows platform, that in full screen mode, if you don't have a mouse, you can barely operate the program. So I wanted to reinforce the function key in Windows F11 to get out of full screen mode. I've not seen this problem on the Mac platform or the Linux platform, so I don't think there's any concern there. But if you do have issues as you're trying to use the program, if you do some testing like we've done and it's not working right, look in the user community, see if you can get some help there, or send me a message and I'll try to help you out. So I think that's it. I think that's all we need to do in terms of our testing. So we're done here. We can close the obviously you can keep it going if you want and start exploring, but I'm going to quit the program. The bottom toolbar, when you hover over it, the last button in it that looks like a power switch icon, that can be used to quit the program. There's a keyboard shortcut that you can use if you like that. If you can see it, if you've got the Windows control, if you're not in full screen mode, you could do that too. So there's a few ways to close the program. So I'm out. That's all good. So that's a good, successful test. Let's just wrap up here. Obviously we started this process by going to the official source for the software. We went to stellarium.org, and we were able to, among other things, read about the system requirements for the tool. The video is the most important thing, open graphic language support. The missing mouse, that's only going to affect a few people, but in Windows, use your F11 key to get out of full screen mode if you can't see your mouse pointer. By the way, F11, as far as I know, doesn't work at all on the Mac in terms of getting in and out of full screen mode, but you do have an on-screen button for doing that. And on a laptop, Windows laptop, if you're trying to use F11, it might not work immediately. You may have to use your function key or F11 overlay to get that to work. If things go wrong, you've got a few things to consider. Are you meeting the system requirements? Double check those. Verify that your computer has enough space, has the proper graphics support. You know, we hear it often that if you uninstall software and reinstall it, sometimes that fixes things. That's sort of a crude method for doing that, but that might be what you need to do. You could visit the user forums, read the FAQ, read the user manual, all from the Stellarium website, and maybe get some answers there, some clues. You can ask me questions. I'll try to help out. All right, what about next steps? If you're going to take my Stellarium introductory course, or any of my Stellarium courses in the future, you need to have the Stellarium software installed and tested. So this video hopefully has helped you accomplish all of that, you're good to go, you've got the software up and running, and you can casually start using it if you haven't already. If you're interested in the features of Stellarium, if you're very new to it or you've been away for a while and you want to see what's new, what's going on with the tool, check out my webinar. That's a quick, short webinar, about 30 minutes long, and we look at the various sort of main features in the tool, and a few of the special advanced features, some of the plugins like telescope control. The training courses are free to RAS Toronto Center members, so sign up for that. There's limited space, so sign up early if you're interested in that. We will do them again in the future, so if you're on the waiting list for the current one, we'll get you into the next one. In that course, there's lots of hands-on interactive work that we'll do. It's a great opportunity to get up to speed really quickly in the software, so that'll be fun. And I also provide to people that take the course my Stellarium quick reference guide. So that gets into the various keyboard shortcuts and button controls that you could use to do all the basic operations in the software. There's a quick reference card for each level, but in the introductory course that's coming up, it's going to cover all the basics. So again, you'll be able to get up to speed pretty quickly. And if you forget an action or a keyboard shortcut, you can look it up on the guide. If you have any questions about the installation process, downloading the software, questions about the upcoming webinars, about signing up for any of the courses, when the future dates are, things like that, really anything at all about Stellarium, don't hesitate to send me an email. You can see my addresses there. I kind of morphed it a little bit, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure that out. And a bit of a shameless plug here, go to blog.lumpydarkness.com. That's my general astronomy blog. There's lots of stuff there, but if you choose the keyword or the tag Stellarium, it's going to filter all the posts that are there, and you'll see there's lots of them that I've been using the software over the years and finding solutions to problems, workarounds, better methods for doing things. I get into some advanced techniques as well, and I also regularly post an update to the shortcuts for Stellarium, all the mouse and keyboard methods that can be used to do things quickly in the tool. So be sure to check that out if you're sort of a power user or you like keyboard shortcuts, or if you're going to do educational things, demonstrations for people using Stellarium. It's nice if you use the keyboard shortcuts because it's very sort of polished and smooth and a lot less distracting than you moving your mouse around. So that's something to check out. So lots more information is available on my blog about Stellarium. Help yourself to any of that information. So I think that's it. Thank you for watching this video. Enjoy using Stellarium. If you want to get up to speed really quickly in Stellarium, check out my webinar and sign up for some of my courses. So that's it. Thanks. Bye.